Welcome to the Chamber Spotlight, a local talk show podcast brought to you by the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce in association with the local scene. We'll be recording on a regular basis and we'll cover many topics that span local businesses, local elections, local town governance, and a citizens' academy. I'm your host, Fraser Townley, and today I'm sitting down with Mary Waldron and Becky Colleta from the Old Colony Planning Council. And I did that in one breath. But before we have the conversation, hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
How are we?
Okay,
We're
Fraser,
great.
how are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Before we get to our conversation, we're just going to cut to the town hall where I met earlier with Andy, and she's going to be reading some town news. So we're going to cut there, and then we'll come back to you ladies afterwards. So I'm here with Andy McKettrick. I'm going to call you Andy.
Yeah, but actually now Andrea Cesarini.
Oh, that's right. You got married recently.
Yes, I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to call you Andy because that's what I've always called you. So Andy, what do you do for the town?
So I am the interim town clerk. So I'm the town clerk, interim, because I am appointed to an elected position currently. So Margaret Struzik was our previous town clerk. I am filling the remainder of her term, and then we'll see what happens next year. So,
So do you have to go on the ballot?
yes. So it's they're going to be putting forth on the special town meeting a warrant article to make it a appointed position. We'll see if that has to pass in order to change that. But if not, then I would have to run for it next year in 2026.
Okay. So today you're our guest speaker to give us the town news. So what's happening in the town?
So a lot of road construction.
Yeah.
So right now, Oldham Street, the water main upgrade project is happening. It's between 398 Oldham Street and the intersection with Pine Tree Lane. It's almost completely impassable at this point. So unless you're a resident that lives in between that area, they're not really letting anybody go down. So there's also water service transfers happening between Center Street, on Center Street between Elliott Ave and Littles Ave. Environmental controls and project signage were installed along Oldham Street last week, and construction began August 4th near the intersection of Oldham Street and Pine Tree Lane, moving west towards Hanson. So typical hours for construction are Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. And access is very limited. So they're asking, please seek alternative routes if you travel on Oldham Street during weekday hours. West Elm Street, their water main replacement from the water tank to the end of the previous roadwork construction zone will begin after Oldham Street's complete. So we're going to do Oldham Street and then move on to West Elm Street. Eversource will be doing their transfers of service during this time as well to minimize impact on residents and commuters. High Street, the water department is working to finish the switchovers of water lines and expects to be finished within the next 2 weeks, which will end the work being performed in this area. Please note that the trenches are being left to settle during winter with paving intended for the spring. And last but not least, Pleasant Street, all this week, August 18th, hot in place surface from Washington Street to Oak Street. Top coat date is to be determined, and Tuesday trash collection happening after 3:30 p.m. And separate from road construction happening, town meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 21st, 7 p.m. at Pembroke High School. And the warrant was closed last week, so it was open from August 11th to August 15th. And if interested people are they want to attend that meeting, they need to be registered to vote by October 10th. So you can register to vote in a town clerk's office, or you can register to vote online. But you need to be registered to attend the meeting and participate in the meeting. So that's basically what I have summarized right now.
Very good.
Going on.
So the key concerns of a lot of residents are the roads, all the water, and your headlines cover pretty much both of those.
Yeah. Yeah, our water department's working. Like I said, they've got a couple of projects happening right now, and they're repaving the Pleasant Street. So look forward to some smoother roads soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Andy, and congratulations on your marriage.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Good. Well, that was interesting. I know you haven't heard the news, but trust me, everybody else will hear it.
I'll listen.
Becky, let's start with you. You're the chairperson of the, is that correct?
So I'm the president of Old Colony Planning Council.
My apologies, the president.
That's
right?
correct. That is, you are. And so what happens is I'm the Pembroke delegate to the Old Colony Planning Council.
Uh-huh.
I have been since, I was originally the alternate and then the delegate since 2019. And over time, I took on, being the treasurer of Old Colony Planning Council and being part of the finance committee. And then the presidency opened up and I was asked to take that role for the council. And basically the council are the 17-member communities, all have delegates and alternates on the council. And we select our leadership, our president, our treasurer, and our secretary. And then we have committees and sort of function in that way. But the bottom line is that the bulk of the work is done by Mary Waldron as executive director and by all of the staff who are funded at Old Colony Planning Council. So we're just the council that sort of represents our communities and makes sure that the council is connecting with the communities and serving the purposes of the communities.
And so were you appointed or elected?
Appointed to Old Colony Planning Council originally when I was on the planning board.
Got it. Okay. Oh, so before your select board?
Before select board. And then on the select board, I asked to continue.
Right.
Because I really enjoy the work of the Old Colony Planning Council. I think that what Old Colony Planning Council does for our town and for our region, it's really important work.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite spots to be because it's people from all parts of the county and some other counties as well, like Avon is part of it. All of these communities are represented. We all have slightly different interests and slightly different needs, but we pull together on certain projects that are regional.
So there's 17 towns, did you say?
17 towns. And then there's actually 24 towns that are part of, we represent as the Area Agency on Aging.
Right.
We're the only regional planning council to be an Area Agency on Aging. So we have 24 towns that funds flow through us for the Area Agency on Aging. And then 17 towns that are part of the council proper. And those 17 towns we represent on things like the Transportation Improvement Program, which is what people are most familiar with for Old Colony Planning Council. And then we also provide comprehensive planning services. Just recently put a submittal to do a housing production plan for Pembroke, which Old Colony Planning Council had done back in 2018, had done the housing production plan.
So well done, Becky. You're getting ahead of yourself. That's great.
I love this organization.
I've got a lot of questions before we get to that one. Mary.
Yes.
So I got the impression from that introduction that you actually do all the work.
No, that is not true. I am honored to have a staff of 26 people.
Oh, wow. So this is a big organization.
We grew from 15 when I first started in 2019, and I'm appointed by the council members. So they're the legislative body. I was appointed to fulfill the shoes of Pat Chiamello, who had been there for over 40 years, and an incredible foundation to follow. But we had COVID shortly after I was appointed, and we had to rethink and reboot and pivot and just how are we going to do this? Are we getting funding? Are we not getting funding? Talk about a little bit of some scare. I think I was nervous and I was scared to not really know where this organization that I just left to come and take over. But the foundation of staff that have been there, from Charlie Kilmer, who's been there for over 28 years and knowledgeable like there's no tomorrow. He is like the E.F. Hutton of Massachusetts when it comes to transportation. And he works for us and works for this region. So wonderful staff, well-versed, well-educated, experienced, their certification, things of that nature. But we do work in tandem with the board. And so, Becky did say, so there's 17 committees. We also have one at-large delegate. And that was really done in a way of one person who can represent, kind of keep us on track in terms of the regional issues. And it's varied in terms of, what the needs are. Hence, we're a regional planning agency. And the goal is that, as Becky talked about, having a housing production plan, we get to look at the other housing production plans in each of our communities. Not everybody is Pembroke, and not everybody is Brockton, right? But it's taking those lessons that are learned, bringing folks together to have the discussion at a council meeting and or within the community themselves, and then to devise a plan that just doesn't sit on a shelf. It has to come off that shelf in order for it to really be effective. So that, in a nutshell, is sort of the question about the staff, as well as we as an organization, from master plans and hazard mitigation plans and municipal vulnerability plans and green communities. And Pembroke is a green communities. And I know.
So
I know it's
we're getting into the weeds, and
Yes.
we don't even know where the forest or the water is.
very good point.
So 26 members of staff, 17 communities. Does each community have a representative?
Yes.
Okay.
And a vote.
And you're not representing Pembroke, isn't that
No,
Alicia?
I represent Pembroke.
Okay.
Alicia is the alternate.
Oh, okay.
Although I will say that I think Pembroke has an alternate and a delegate who are both very involved in the organization.
Sure.
So Alicia has taken a real interest in the economic development piece of what Old Colony Planning Council does. And she's now the vice chair of the Economic Development Committee.
So Pembroke is very well
Yes.
represented
Yes.
on the board.
Yes.
Yes, but we need to do more.
Yeah. Okay. So of the 26 people, they're not the delegates.
No,
No.
they're staff.
Let me.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. So this is a big organization.
It is.
Okay.
Yes. And I think one thing to pull back, we are one of 13 regional planning agencies in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay.
One of 13.
Okay.
We are probably, so there's we have the 17 communities. There's probably about 4 communities that have 13 or 15 communities. There are some regional planning agencies that have 27, 28, and then 46 communities. And then the biggest one is the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, and they have 101 communities.
Wow.
People refer to that as MAPC.
Right.
And MAPC covers Boston. And Pembroke used to be part of both MAPC and OCPC. And at some point, we sort of put our eggs in the OCPC basket because when it comes to things like transportation, you have an easier time accessing staff and
Resources.
because you're only one of 17 instead of competing with a much larger group for that money.
So breaking it down, what is the So we've got different names, but what is the function?
Function is to provide resources and experience to our communities in the area of planning.
Right.
And that planning is a very general
It's in the
term.
title, the planning.
It
council,
is,
but-
correct. But it breaks down into transportation planning, master
Right.
planning, economic development, resiliency, and also the elder care.
So are you a state function?
We are quasi-public. So we
right.
pay into the state retirement system. So we're considered technically state employees. One can find, we're a public entity, so you can find our salaries and things of that nature on a public website. But we get our resources from grant writing, and we get our resources for each of those 17 communities. They pay an assessment to Old Colony Planning Council.
But it's when you say that, people are like, oh, we're funding Old Colony Planning Council.
they're not.
The assessment funds, what, $180?
$160,000 a year for our 26 staff members.
And so we have, our budget, our operating budget is 2.8,
It's, just
somewhere around there. And so our operating budget is mostly funded by grants and programming.
Yeah.
And the assessment is really just a sort of basic number that goes way back in time.
Mary's taking notes.
Yeah.
Really
I
doesn't
know.
reflect much. Our funding, and what Mary's talking about, the growth from 15 employees to 26 employees, a lot of that was because Old Colony Planning Council grew a lot of what it's doing for our communities. So, municipal vulnerability plans became more important in the last 6 years. But also, Mary brought on somebody who was very experienced in economic development.
Right.
And that was an area we hadn't done as much on.
Uh-huh.
And he has brought in, like, for example, he helped pull together the money from state and federal sources to fund a regional water study in our region.
Right.
That covers all of our communities, that pulls together, it was $1 million,
Uh-huh.
hired CDM Smith to come in. All of the communities had the ability to have representation on the Water Planning Committee, the task force. And over the course of a year,
2 years.
2 years, we pulled together all of this information about what people thought about the availability of water for growth, how water usage was going to grow, how, they looked at, okay, well, even if the number of people grow, if the number of people using water-saving equipment grows, appliances grows, that actually kind of offsets a little bit. So they, in a very scientific, quantitative way, factored all of this into a water report that is now available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. And, it's funny because...
So that was an Old Colony
Initiative,
which we wouldn't have that if it wasn't for you guys.
No.
Right.
And
That's important.
honestly, we wouldn't have it unless we probably had brought this person in to be able to chase after the money to get it from the Economic Development Agency at the federal level and through grant writing. What was interesting is when we did our own master plan and I was looking at it, I realized that one of the early recommendations was that there be a water plan analysis done. And the people we had hired to do our master plan weren't aware that Old Colony was doing the regional water study.
Which seems a little bit of a waste of resource, actually.
Yes, I made sure to bring it up. And so...
No banging the table.
Oh, sorry.
I understand you're passionate, and I would be too.
But so these kind of opportunities, the other thing that Mary did as part of expanding what our capabilities are is that she brought in a grants writer.
Right.
A grants specialist.
Right.
And, maybe Mary wants to tell you a little bit about that because that's another support to our communities. It's not trying to replace what our communities do. Like the regional water plan is unique in that it's a real regional look at water because water crosses town lines.
Absolutely. And that makes total sense to me. If you silo things, then you miss out on so much. You've got to know what your neighbors are doing. And that's why I think this is important. Before you let me just ask you, how old is this? It's an old colony. How old is the...
We were established by an act of legislature. Give me 1 second, 60 years old in 2027.
So it's not a new...
No, we're not talking about 5-10 years. No.
Right.
We've been around. We probably have been around maybe not as long as counties, but again, it's a different structure. County government elects county commissioners. This is not elected. We are in many ways like the consultant to the region. We don't have necessarily experts in everything, so we don't really dabble in.
You know where to get them.
We know where to get them. And if we need to find resources to have and help, hire someone up with a consultant to come in to help those communities. So
it sounds like you know what you don't know as well, which is really important.
We have to, right? And we also won't go to places where a community doesn't want us. Nope, we're all set. We've been working with this consultant, blah, 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 for a number of years, and they know us and they know us. Great. But there are regional issues, right? So
do you get any of that? Do you get any pushback? People being a little bit territorial?
I don't see much of that.
But I would say that some communities are just more comfortable working with people they know.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody who knows their planner or who knows their system. And so but they might not use us in one area and use us in another.
Right.
Like maybe they don't use us for the master plan because they want different capabilities or they want maybe an outside view. Yeah. But maybe they use us for like the housing production plan. Like in Pembroke, the master plan is maybe an outside view of us, and the housing production plan might be something that we would be able to use more local expertise. There are also some things that we do, like transportation improvement plan when it comes to federal funding for roads like Route 36 and Route 14 in Pembroke, that has to go through Old Colony Planning Council. So that's more of there are some statutory roles that we play as well.
That's correct.
So you can find sources of funding? Is that what you're saying? Or?
So for the Transportation Improvement Plan, there's a certain amount of money delegated for transportation improvement in the region.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you can apply for additional money for special projects like a bridge program or something. For example, in the Duxbury Powder Point Bridge, that's a separate bucket of money. But the Transportation Improvement Plan, what is our budget for the region? I forget.
I think
Give us a number.
40. I think it's like 43 million in terms of projects over a number of period of years.
So you oversee that?
Yeah.
You are the purse holder?
Well, no.
Oh.
We're the project facilitator of when those projects get to be funded.
So you're
It's
aware
about-
of the size of the purse and who's got the money, and you can advise. Is that...
So there are two entities that are sub-entities. We have a Joint Transportation Committee and a Metropolitan Planning Organization that are both required by federal law.
Okay.
And we work with Mass DOT, sits on those committees with us, with our people, and with delegates representing our region.
Yeah.
And they go through the criteria for prioritizing projects within the region in terms of safety and,
readiness.
Correct. The town has to take some initiative and come up with some of the engineering money to actually start the project.
Uh-huh.
And we take, if a project's ready to go, if it serves a need that's greater than other communities, if the road's in really bad shape, these committees, and then ultimately it's voted on by the entire council, all the delegates, to say this is the transportation improvement plan that's going to take the federal dollars and the state dollars that are available for state roads.
Okay.
This is not for local road management.
Right.
That's right.
So, and then we try to allocate that fairly within the region to best improve the overall roadways, state roadways in the region.
Right.
And it gets complicated. Like there's Route 53 is state managed.
Mm-hmm.
Route 14 and Route 36, we're responsible for maintaining the road within the bounds of Pembroke.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Transportation Improvement Plan says, okay, we can go in and say Route 14 became a mess, and we can get them to work with us, get us on the Transportation Improvement Plan. Between Route 14 and Route 36 and the light at Pleasant Street, I think Pembroke has gotten over $25 million worth of projects done through the Transportation Improvement Plan.
Period is that?
I want to say
in the
that
last
started
10
around
years or?
Since 2018, maybe?
Yeah.
Wow.
And,
congratulations.
And that is, right, so what Becky discussed is a plan, and that's what we do. We manage that plan. We don't do the actual construction. We really don't get into the hiring of who gets hired to be the contractor.
Mm-hmm.
That's
but
DOT.
what we have to do, and what we're doing is helping the federal government by way of helping the state to help manage the projects that are within our region.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires a lot of due diligence, requires a lot of paperwork, it requires a lot of data entry online. We hold meetings, monthly meetings internally with our state partners, Mass DOT, just so we stay on track with them. We have conversations with our communities when they run into issues saying, well, I don't understand why this has not been done. So we will communicate. We're probably good communicators, conveners to move the whatever barriers that might be to the next level. And that means either finding other resources to help get that 25% design level and or to be the person to say, this is not your year. Let's work with you to get you onto the Transportation Improvement Program next year.
Mm-hmm.
That
must be a tough conversation.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be, but in the end results, and that's a whole nother discussion. We're having internal discussions. How do we improve that process? Mm-hmm. How do we put data into that process? How do we put, checklists so we can help our communities? I would tell you, there are communities we met with 2 years ago that never had a transportation improvement program project on that list. They now do, and they're in queue. It just affords the community an alternative way of dealing with the transportation transportation issues within their community. Sometimes it's Chapter 90, sometimes it's Transportation Improvement Program, sometimes it's applying for a grant that is funded by a nonprofit organization.
Mm-hmm.
We have to put it all on the table, and we have to have that discussion.
Sure.
And what the other issue, and I wouldn't say issue, I think the other part is that helping a community, everybody's strapped. You have communities that...
And it's not getting easier.
It's not getting easier to run a community, to have staff and multitask. You have a DPW person who also has to be the Green Communities Coordinator, who also has to attend a meeting for something else. That's a lot, and we recognize that, and we want to be able to, again, go to where we're wanted. And if you need us to sit on a meeting, we figure out a way. There's some things that come under our existing grant funding, and there's sometimes saying, well, we don't have the funding to do that, but let's work together on applying for a one-stop grant from the state.
Yeah.
We need some funding. This is how the process. Put a little bit of some funding in for us to help you administer it. Let's get you started, and then we back away and say, there you go.
So, sorry.
So when she was talking about coming up with this money, that's where also the grant specialist has been helpful.
Yeah.
He did a program saying, okay, I remember when there was a big culvert program right around the time that Paul Umano came on board with us, and he did some informational programs to say, okay, this is how you qualify for the culvert program, because there was a decision made at the state level that culverts were a problem and they needed a special pot of money. And then we had to find out how to prioritize that money to the projects that needed it the most throughout the state. And so Paul was there to help our region figure out, if they wanted the help, how to get access to that money. Because it was right around the time that we had a big culvert failure in Pembroke.
Yeah.
And
That's close to where I live. I'm trying to remember the name of the street. Congress Street.
Congress Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there are ways that it becomes more dynamic. And the other piece that Mary didn't talk about when she talks about improving the process with like the TIP program and the way roads get prioritized and things. We actually just got a grant, a $1.9 million grant over 2 years or 4 years?
2 years, a little over 2 years.
To work on, it's a process improvement grant, basically. It's about how to improve the process of how federal highway dollars get distributed and how we get projects from start to end in a more efficient way and in a way that still pulls in public input.
So that's money that came from the state or the feds?
Federal.
Federal.
We applied 2 years ago and we just received it.
Okay, but in those 2 years, we've had a changed administration that's looked at cutting costs.
Yes.
So how is that going to impact?
Well, that's a great question because beginning of the year when the executive orders were flying and we were navigating, 70%, close to 70% of our funding comes from federal government.
Right. So there must be concerns.
There were, but working side by side with Becky and the communication, we had a discussion and we talked to the council members and staff internally saying, how do you want us to update this? Because we're monitoring. Things were changing. We'd go to bed at nighttime, it'd be one thing, and in the morning there's another thing. We were not counting on this one. We were awarded last year before the new administration.
And it's a very rare thing to get this award.
We were one of 16 across the country to get this
Across
award.
the country?
Yep.
Across the country.
Two in
Massachusetts or OP?
Across the country. So
OC.
Old Colony Planning Council received the grant funding. There was another organization that received another grant like we did. But the two of us in Massachusetts were 2 of 16 across the country.
Wow. Congratulations.
That congratulation goes to Paul and to Charlie from my office. They put the grant together. And so when that happened, I actually did. I said, we need to call a meeting with everybody and let's talk about this. And here's my mindset and what do we do? And we're going to be constantly monitoring it at that point too, because it was federal funds that were involved in that water study that Becky referenced. And I basically said, whoa, let's hold on. We did a hiatus on any work because what we do is we expend the money and then we get reimbursed. And I did not want this organization to be on the hook for, $90,000. And so,
Just explain that to me, Mary.
yeah,
So you spend the money before you get it,
that's correct.
and then you...
Well, we've already gotten the award of it.
And a contract. We,
Oh, right. Okay.
We have a
so,
contract.
so where does the cash flow come from in order to cash flow?
It is a cash flow. We have a
You
great...
must have reserves.
We do. We
Good.
do.
Okay.
And one of the things we did this year was we had our accountant, our bookkeeper, go through and come up with what are our reserves.
Yeah.
And if we had any programs cut, and we had sort of stepped in front of our getting paid for work that we were authorized to do but not paid yet to do.
Yeah.
And we figured out that we had some running room, and we monitor that monthly. That's part of what the council does, is we're responsible for making sure that we don't end up behind the eight ball. But what's exciting about this process improvement grant is that it got confirmed recently that it's going to go to contract and get started. And that's, to me, a very exciting thing, because it says, okay, this is still a priority.
Yeah. How much of your legal background has helped you?
Oh, I don't know.
It's helped me.
There you go.
I mean, I don't provide legal advice to the council.
No, she does not.
No, I understand
but I
that,
do,
but you have a legal brain.
She does.
So what we do
And
is
your processes are on that legal... I mean, you read.
I tend to be a
You
little more
understand what's
analytical than some people, which
Right.
drives some people crazy. But maybe my husband sometimes. But it's just the way my brain is, right? So to some extent, it's helpful, but it also is helpful in terms of saying, okay, what can go wrong, and how do we prepare ourselves, right?
You've always asked the questions publicly that I'm thinking of asking. So you get there before I do.
And she does that for the council as well.
Yeah.
Not only as a president, but I know for a fact that the questions that Becky raises at a meeting, whether it's a finance meeting, a personnel committee meeting, or the council itself, will raise questions that is on people's minds. And in many ways, I think a lot of folks don't welcome those questions. I do, because
Yeah.
I've been on many boards, and if one person's thinking it or saying it, that means others are thinking it. So in the case
Sometimes it just takes one person to have the right question
That's right.
to start the ball rolling.
But back to the question, that were raised in terms of the executive order.
Yeah.
So yes, Becky's right in terms of that we have reserve, but because of this water grant, we also received funding from the state. So we already had that in our coffers.
Nice. Okay.
And then there was some, the South Shore Chamber provided funding as well. And I think it was like around $40,000. So that was already in our coffers. But we were getting close to the end. And it's having great communication with our fiscal team. Brenda Robeson, who's our finance manager, she's extraordinary. And again, think about when she first started, there weren't a whole lot of grants. There were grants, but we have quadrupled the number of grants coming in. And that's where, again, great communication between the finance team, great communications with the council members. Our books are always open. We're transparent. We made a really concerted effort to be transparent. You could walk into our office, or a council member could, or a legislator could come into our office. The books are open.
Where are those offices?
And we are located at 70 School Street in Brockton.
Okay.
Right across from Town Hall. in
So
Brockton.
is Brockton one of the 17?
It is.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is Brockton the largest city?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
And then next up would be Plymouth. So we have Plymouth and Brockton,
Right.
kind of very different ideas of large towns or cities in our area.
Very.
And then we have, very small like Plumpton,
Uh-huh.
and very rural like Plumpton. And so part of it is making sure that all of those communities have a voice,
Yeah.
and that we don't it's not a one-size-fits-all. If you're working with Lori Muncy, who heads up our comprehensive planning group, Lori's going to sit down and say, what does this community need? And it's not at all a one-size-fits-all approach.
That's within your organization, Mary, but you're on the board and you are one of 17 representatives.
Yes, but what happened?
Brockton doesn't have more representatives, or
No.
Plymouth doesn't have...
No.
Okay.
So
good.
it's actually kind of interesting that
Yeah.
the bigger cities, they probably get a little more, like if you do a road safety audit, so one of the things we do all the time are road safety audits. Like we did one on Route 139 in Pembroke because of some of the accidents there. And so if you look at the road safety audits, if you look at some of our analyses of road safety in our region, Brockton is going to have more issues that need to be addressed. So they're
Of course.
probably going to get a little more of that money to fix those issues.
But not disproportionately more because of their population size.
That's correct.
Right.
That's right.
It's going to be
That's
based
good.
upon things like road safety.
Data
Data.
and as well as communication with us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece that, as we were chatting earlier in terms of the representation to the council, we have a great, it's only until recently we did not have a delegate from Plimpton, but we now do. And but that didn't stop us from doing projects in Plimpton, because we would have conversation with the town manager. So in the case of Pembroke, that what we try to do on an annual basis is myself and the managers, we will go to each community and sit down with the town administrator, perhaps maybe a board of selectmen member, perhaps somebody else who, not only the delegates or alternates, but tell us what your needs are. Because what our needs in 2024 are not going to be the same needs in 2025. So one of the things, this podcast and the discussion about what needs are in a community, we listen to, we subscribe to not only just print news, but we also follow things on social media. We follow context, the Chamber of Commerce, and what the needs and discussions. And so we gather that, and we have a great communications team where it's shared. But then it's also, we have a newsletter that goes out twice a month. We're the only regional planning agency that does that within the state of Massachusetts. We feel because it's needed. And the things that we share are, hey, we're working on a grant, or there is a grant deadline coming up, or even some successes. We just became an regional age-friendly designation, because we're working with communities about, I am now in that. I'm going to be turning 65 this year. But my point is that we need to be more accommodating to a growing population that is staying within this region. Bigger sign, lettering on signs, and or walkways that are safety, or bikeways and things of that nature. But it's not for me to tell the community or anybody else. It's for us to listen to what those needs are.
Right.
And keep in mind that, the delegates are all volunteers, right?
No,
Right.
I was just about to come on to that.
Like any municipal organization, we're all volunteers.
Yeah.
And some of us have different skill sets that, like Alicia Siciliano Perry from Pembroke, she runs a company and she does a lot of design work.
Yeah.
So she brings that
You can
perspective.
plug her company if you like. Isn't it Alluring Designs?
It is.
There you go.
Or Alluring Concepts.
Alluring Concepts. I think you're right. It's alluring.
It's alluring. And so she's more interested in economic development. Whereas I come from the planning background and the legal background, so maybe I'm more interested in the roadways and in the planning around roadways and water. And then we might have a planner like Lee Hartman from Plymouth.
Were you looking it up?
I was, and it wasn't popping up quickly enough. Sorry, but
That's okay.
So we have, like Lee Hartman from Plymouth has been on their delegate for many years, and he's the actual planner for the town. So you have planners, you have civilians, you have all sorts of different people who are represented on the council, and we interact with the staff to say, okay, have you guys been looking at this? Because I heard about this, and maybe we could work on this.
It actually was Alicia's suggestion, because she says, Mary, I'm going to these meetings and I'm hearing either me talking or the finance. She goes, I want to know more about what you guys do. And it was because of Alicia's interest and from her lens that we changed up how we do our monthly meetings. I now have staff reporting out about the work they're doing and grants they are writing. And specialty, right? We have drones. We have drone pilots that work with our communities to do flyovers, whether it's for DPW or whether it's for planning purposes. We run a septic program for communities, about a septic loan program for citizens to get that loan to make their improvements. We have GIS services, and that we're able to then identify and if a community needs some mapping done. Not every community.
GIS.
Geographic Information Systems.
Okay, thank you.
I know we are in this. My world is.
I'm thinking about the people listening, not the people.
That's
Right,
no,
I know. But we could talk in acronyms all day, and it's part of the issue. When you first come in as a delegate,
Yeah.
you just sit there and have no idea what's going on. So we've actually also started a delegate orientation program so that delegates, and once a year we sort of pull it together and look at what the organization is doing, what it might do for your community, to give people ideas and to pull in ideas about what the organization is and can do.
So let me switch it up. Some personal questions. Becky, you have volunteered on various different, you select board, you were planning. You seem alive. Are you rewarded by your volunteering on the Old Colony?
I am. You know what I really like in this day and age is that on Old Colony Planning Council...
You don't mind me saying that, do you?
No. I really feel like we are getting things done. So it's not about politics. It's not about... And I like that. The fact that there's a hopefulness to the idea that we can plan and make things happen, and plan and not face a disaster, and plan and bring money in. That is interesting to me.
You seem stimulated and motivated.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And Mary,
I do
you
get
said
paid.
you took no. But you said you hinted that you took a risk to come here, or stop doing what you were doing to come here.
Because
Was it a value?
So back when I did, it's a great value.
Right.
There was incredible value. So a little bit about background where when I was going for my master's of public administration, I actually did my thesis on regionalism.
Ah, okay.
And it came full circle. And having worked in local government and worked with businesses and worked in education and workforce development, this organization and the work that I'm doing is so satisfactory. It is just so satisfactory because I do know that we don't rest our laurels on that win. We know that there's 2 more new grants that are coming that I can't talk about today, but I know that there's more coming, and it does mean more work because when the administration and more
Nothing comes easy.
No, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's that work ethic that I know I received from my parents, and hopefully I've shared it with my daughter. But that work ethic, and again, the same person that I'm sitting right next to has that same work ethic because it improves. It improves the quality of life for this region.
Yeah.
That is part of our mission. And, rivers don't stop at borders, and nor do roads, and nor does air. And so if we have a fiefdom and insular ourselves, then we're losing out. But again, right, it's working with our state legislators, and whether it's Kathy Lenatra or Senator Brady, we know them because they know that when I'm coming, they don't run the other way, but they know that I'm going to come asking because I'm asking on behalf of our communities.
Yeah.
And they have, all of them. They really have been wonderful. This crosses over party lines. And I don't always see that in other regions.
Yeah.
And there are party lines that differ in our council members, but that it really never ever comes up in the conversations because we're like Switzerland. We really need to be apolitical. We are data-driven, and we have to work with our communities. We can't make this stuff up, and we can't force things onto our communities.
You brought up workforce development. Just shamelessly, I'm going to plug that on the 25th of September, the Chamber will be hosting a forum called Workforce Development, but its focus will be VOTEC.
Okay.
And what we do, we've got Tom Hickey, Erin Obie, Bill Chenard, a couple of parents who are interested. Katrina Delaney will speak on behalf of the school committee. So we're going to lay it all out there for the residents of Pembroke to see. And so, yeah, I'm shamelessly quoting. So
Please do.
we are close to time. Well, I think we're over time, but I'm not going to stop this conversation because I'm enjoying it. Is there anything you wanted to share with the residents of Pembroke before we cut off? Are you going to leave here going, I wish I'd said that? Is there anything?
I would
Projects
my
or-
2 cents. Well, there's always going to be projects, but Becky had already talked about, because she knows, because we keep our council members informed about the things we're working on. But
Shameless.
our website is full of information.
Okay.
Old Colony, www.oldcolonyplanningcouncil.org. We encourage, and if I do not have you on our mail list, I'm going to include you on our mail list.
I'm not even on the Chamber's mail list, so don't worry about it.
But you should be, because
Yes, I
it's
should.
full of information.
Yeah.
Like even with the Chamber and sharing information, our staff
Mm-hmm.
can attend a meeting. And I know we have information. So our website is full of information, and that would be one.
And that's the Old Colony planningcouncil.org.
All
So
one
it's
word.
planningcouncil.org.
oldcolonyplanningcouncil.org.
Okay.
Yes.
If we say it enough times,
We
people
will.
And on that website,
Yeah.
a couple things that people might want to really look at right now.
Sure.
Transportation Improvement Plan, always
Yep.
an interesting read,
Uh-huh.
because it talks about transportation needs of the region, including each town.
Not MBTA.
Not MBTA.
Right. This is
Nothing to do with
roads.
MBTA. This
Right.
has to do mostly with roads.
Yeah.
It will talk about Brockton area transit, BAT, and it'll talk about GATRA in terms of what kind of local transit we might get.
Yeah.
But it's really focused on road projects for the most part. And that's interesting to see who's getting what and why. And part of it is because those towns are taking the initiative to put new projects. Pembroke actually needs to get a new project in the pipeline. The other, and we've been talking to them about that.
Pull that back, because we're talking to Pembroke residents. It needs to, or it hasn't got one, and it should have one.
I think we're at the point where we need to be getting a project in the queue.
Right.
And so when I look at like Route 139, or I look at maybe even some things we could do on Route 27.
Yeah.
At one point we had talked with Charlie Kilmer about whether or not we could do something on the connector between Route 14 and Route 27 that goes past the ball fields.
Right.
Mattakeesit there. So there are some projects that we could look at and try to. Our major routes in town, 53, 14, and 36, are kind of in good shape right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be more 139 or 27, or maybe a connector road that might qualify. So those are the big things. But there's also a project that we just completed called Safe Streets for All. And Safe Streets for All was a federal project to identify safety issues throughout the country. And there's an analysis of like you can actually see what intersections throughout the region are the most dangerous in terms of motor vehicle fatalities and injuries and just accidents overall. And you can see where Pembroke fits in all of that. And so these are things that are on the website that I think are really interesting.
I'm going to make a prediction. Route 14 and Taylor.
So Route 14 and Taylor Street is kind of interesting because Route 14 and Taylor and Route 14 and there are a few. Take a look at it. It's not as bad as you think it is relative to the region,
Right.
but
Okay.
it's something where some of these intersections we could be looking at, and we are looking at. If you look at Charlie, could tell you all about those intersections.
Okay.
So here's what I'm going to. Your question to us was, what did we leave you? I'm leaving with that. I want to tell you more about Old Colony Planning Council,
Sure.
and we don't have enough time. I'm leaving you with the paper copy of our annual report. We do reporting out every year, and
No one else can see this because
they
We don't
they
have
can't. But
cameras,
it's on our website.
okay.
And what I do think that I would encourage either myself and some of my staff members, we come to a chamber meeting and have a discussion with your members.
For sure.
And the question is not always like, what else did we need? What else are you looking for?
Okay, so one of the things we're doing.
And Alicia should be part of that conversation.
Absolutely.
Well, this is where it comes full circle. So we do the forums once a month in this winter, fall season. So September, we're doing the workforce development. October and November, we will also have a forum. And you and nobody. So Mary or Becky should come and be on the panel. It's not going to be live. It'll be done in the studio. The workforce forum is going to be live at the library.
In Pembroke.
In
Yeah.
Pembroke.
Yeah.
but then the October and the November forums, which are all about infrastructure. So if you remember last year, we did the infrastructure forum and we crammed an awful lot in. We want to break that out and make it a two-parter, a round table, and have folks of influence like yourselves participating and doing the presentation.
I think that would be outstanding. Other things about me is that I used to be the Economic Development Director for the City of Brockton.
Okay.
And we, in fact, had a economic summit every year that brought in infrastructure, housing, economic development, just workforce development. So it would bring in folks from the state and have that conversation.
Yeah.
The other thing is, since we're located in downtown Brockton, I'm also the president of the Downtown Brockton Association. So I hear the needs of property owners. Not all are businesses, some of them are organizations, but you hear that need. And I think that part is really important to have that be mutually beneficial. What are the needs and how do we address them? Our economic development team, Nick Giaquinto, who lives in Marshfield, but his involvement with state organizations. So I would welcome to listen in. I will make sure.
No, you're on the panel. You're not listening. You're not a spectator. You're a player.
But here's what I'd like to do is to listen to the needs, not just only of those period of time, but to hear the fact that you, as a Pembroke Chamber, has taken this effort to do this is really important. Having that voice be heard by government officials, regional officials, Board of Selectmen, whoever, state legislators. Really important. And I really would like to be part of that somehow.
You are.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an official invite.
Terrific.
Ladies, this has been fascinating, enlightening. I hope the listeners will get out of this what I got out of this. So, are we done? I think we are. So, I'd like to thank our guests, Mary Waldron, Becky Colleta, for participating, and thank you to the listeners for tuning in. This podcast will be available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube with additional links on our Facebook page. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce. And if you're interested in becoming a member of the Chamber, please go to the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce website, pembrokechamber.org. Ladies, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.